And now my next responsibility is to introduce our speaker for today. I've known this particular individual for some decades now. You might be interested to know that we met in a state psychiatric institution. And we've been committed ever since. Although I should throw in that we were both doing internships in music therapy at the time. Jumping some years ahead, Ron is now a computer science professor in Virginia, where he spends the school year, and I reside here in Las Cruces. And it seems to me that over the last 2 or 3 years, we've both gone through somewhat of a spiritual growth spurt. And mine has taken the form of completing the practitioner studies, and that's why you keep seeing me up here week after week. And his has taken the form of studying Buddhism, which he has done diligently for the last couple years. And you might think, because he will be talking on that topic today and his experience with that study and that process, I didn't come here to hear about Buddhism. I want to learn about religious science, science of mind. Well, I suggest that you listen carefully, because we know that our founder, Ernest Holmes, in his great studies and readings, pulled truths and principles from many arenas, Buddhism being one of them. So a lot of this is going to sound very familiar to you. And before we bring him up, I would just like to note that when I first came here to the center some years ago, I'd sit in the back looking at the backs of people's heads, and I'd see couples, and I'd think, that would really be nice if I had Ron sitting here appreciating this experience with me. And after a while that happened. He did attend, and we sat together for a while. And now something's happened that I never fathomed, I never dared to imagine, to be sitting in the audience and actually seeing him behind the podium. So let's get on with that.
Get my notes. All right, first, thanks for that music. Great. Good morning. How are people doing? I'm really happy to be here. I would like to begin today by thanking and acknowledging my teachers here at the center when I was taking Science of Mind classes. Nancy, thanks. My teachers at Clear Mind Zen Center here in town, and my home Shambhala Buddhist Center in Washington, D.C. I would like to say my talk is just to encourage you in your practice and to share our mutual appreciation for practice. I'm going to talk about poodles. I have one, are we getting there? 5-year-old standard poodle who goes back and forth with me to Virginia, where I work. And about a year ago, I decided to get another poodle from a breeder in Kempner, Texas, near Austin. And as we were going, Cheryl and I were driving back across Texas with this poodle puppy. We were trying to come up with a name. I wanted kind of a Buddhist-inspired name. And there's this famous Zen koan about dogs that I thought might work. It goes something like this. A monk asked Master Chao Chu respectfully, does a dog have Buddha nature or not? Meaning, basically, does a dog have the potential to become enlightened or not? And Master Chao Chu says, moo. Moo here means no, not, or nothing. And this is known as the moo koan. So I thought, well, maybe I'll name my dog Moo. But, that just seemed really strange. Saying, here, moo, doesn't really work, and to think that it means no, not, or nothing, here, nothing, not probably a good name. So we decided on naming the dog Bodhi, B-O-D-H-I. Bodhi is a Sanskrit word meaning awake, and it's the part of many Buddhist words, including bodhisattva, literally awakened being or enlightened being. But in the Mahayana school of Buddhism, or Great Vehicle School, it means a being who works tirelessly for the benefit of others. And that's what I'll be talking about today, beings who work tirelessly for the benefit of others. But first, because I like dogs, I'd like to talk a bit more about my dog Bodhi and how he helped me in my practice. Part of my practice is to experience things directly, to be in the now without the filter of self or ego, without this constant commentary we all have. So a constant commentary with poodles, puppies might be, dang dog, I just had him out, he peed in the house. I'm really pissed off because he chewed up my iPhone. Or I'm trying to get him to sit, and I think, he knows how to sit, he's just being stubborn. Or the thought of, maybe it was a mistake to get a puppy, I was fine with one dog. And, it's pretty chaotic. This was really a big mistake. So commentaries about puppies we might have. But a puppy's a great opportunity to practice. And one aspect of practice is to remember the impermanence of all things, right? So Bodhi's only going to be a puppy for so long, so I can really, really get frustrated. I have a choice. I can get frustrated with all these things that puppies do, or try to enjoy every moment of him being a puppy, right? So even if it's 2 a.m. in the morning, he has diarrhea, I'm outside, it's raining, he's only going to be a puppy for so long. Enjoy it. And it is possible, I must say, to be out there in the rain, watch this puppy get soaking wet at 2 in the morning, and kind of enjoy that experience. So all relationships are impermanent. Everything's impermanent, right? Dogs die, people die, restaurants close. So there's the last time we'll eat at Shem's restaurant, which the Moroccan restaurant here in town. There's the last time for everything. This moment that we're in passes, and we have this opportunity to be either kind of in the moment, present, or having all this commentary about the past and future in our head. So that was baby steps with my dog named Awake. And what I can say is, it's not that hard to be present and in the moment with a puppy. At least, not 100% of the time, but enough. And it's not that hard to be awake and in the moment with a dog you've had, since puppyhood. But it's a lot more challenging to be present in the moment with a person, even if that person's your spouse, right? So it's kind of funny to think that I might say about my dog, he knows how to sit, but he's being stubborn. But when we think of our spouse being stubborn about something, that seems like a certainty, right? So the title of my talk, My Poodle and Creating an Enlightened Society. But before I get onto the Creating an Enlightened Society bit, I want to talk a bit about Buddhism and what you might know about Buddhism. Most people think, well, Buddhists, they meditate about nothing. And that's mostly true. So in most forms of Buddhism, we sit daily as part of our daily practice to meditate, to kind of experience the moment without that filter of self. To meditate is dwelling in the thought-free, alert, wakeful attention. That's kind of what meditation is. You might think Buddhism is a way to personal salvation. So life's really, really hard, tough, stressful. Buddhist meditation might be kind of a way to live with that, to kind of relax. Or you might imagine going on a retreat, a weekend retreat to Santa Fe, a Buddhist meditation retreat. So you kind of do some sort of meditation, yoga, you kind of lay on your belly and they put those hot rocks on your back to kind of get the kinks out, some good food, but simple. So at the end of that week, you're really kind of blissed out, relaxed, just feeling great, and you get to work the next morning feeling totally, totally rejuvenated.
Now, Ron, that reminds me of a joke. It's about this guy, Dave, who goes on a 9-day Vipassana meditation retreat. And he comes back, and the next day when he shows up at work at the zoo, the head keeper notices that Dave seems a little bit blissed out. So he assigns him to work in the tortoise enclosure that day. And Dave slowly goes over and gets into position in the turtle enclosure. On around noon, the zookeeper comes to check on Dave, and he sees that the gate's open and all the tortoises are gone. So he runs up to Dave and says, "Dave, what's with the gate? Where are the tortoises?" And Dave said, slowly, "Well, I opened the gate, and it was like, whoosh."
That was our blissed out joke. Anyway, so you might think that Buddhism is a way to survive in the modern world, or we have this narrow-minded view that Buddhism is a way of having some personal euphoria. But Chogyam Trungpa, the founder of Shambhala Buddhism, says, ego is constantly attempting to acquire and apply the teachings of spirituality for its own benefit. So Buddhism, science of mind, unity, it doesn't matter. There's this potential, this real struggle that we're going to have ego be our spiritual advisor, right? So we kind of pick things from different spiritual traditions, things that are really comfortable to ego, and we're going to reject doing stuff that's uncomfortable or it's kind of hard or we just don't like, right? So we kind of form our own path, but it's really not a spiritual path, it's sort of an ego path, right? Or you can kind of think of it as spirituality as a warm, fuzzy blanket. Life's hard and chaotic and stressful, and, man, I get to my practice, or I come out to a place on Sunday, and it's just a place to feel warm and cozy, right? About a month ago, I was sitting in my daily practice of meditation, and, it wasn't going well. I was thinking about I was really stressed out, thinking about tenure, thinking about my plans for the day, and the next day, pretty much the same thing, having all these thoughts about myself, I'm fat, I need to go on a diet, wouldn't it be nice to get a job where Cheryl and I can live in the same city, kind of on and on about that. And the next day, sitting in meditation, the same thing. And this went on for about a week until finally I thought, enough thinking about myself all the time, like coming up with this me plan. That's kind of what I do 24/7. I wake up, in the morning, 2 in the morning, middle of the night, and I'm starting to think about me. Man, I'm really stressed, I need to do this, this, and this. Right? And Buddhism ain't about the me plan, constructing things. It ain't about the self. It isn't about some personal pursuit away from samsara or suffering to nirvana or some blissed out state. It isn't about wishful thinking. I wish, my knee felt better. I wish I had a better job or whatever. It isn't about those things. The goal of Mahayana Buddhism, the larger of the two schools of Buddhism, is to create an enlightened society. That's it, to create an enlightened society. An enlightened society is one where everyone, regardless of what your religion is, your age, your gender, where you were born, everyone has the potential to lead a dignified life and to kind of express this innate wisdom that we all have, and to help create a vibrant, brilliant society based on kindness and compassion. Karen Armstrong, in her Charter for Compassion, says, "The principle of compassion lies at the heart of all religious, ethical, and spiritual traditions, calling us always to treat all others as we wish to be treated ourselves. Compassion impels us to work tirelessly to alleviate the suffering of our fellow creatures, to dethrone ourselves from the center of our world and put another there, and to honor the inviolable sanctity of every single human being, treating everybody without exception with absolute justice, equity, and respect. We urgently need to make compassion a clear, luminous, and dynamic force in our polarized world. Rooted in a principled determination to transcend selfishness, compassion can break down political, dogmatic, ideological, and religious boundaries. Born of our deep interdependence, compassion is essential to human relationships and to a fulfilled humanity. It is the path to enlightenment and indispensable to the creation of a just economy and a peaceful global community." So we should dethrone ourselves from the center of our world and put another there. Right? There's a song by Weird Al Yankovic. Anyone know Weird Al Yankovic? All right, we got some Weird Al fans, hopefully. It says, "Why does this always happen to me?" And it goes like this. I'm not going to sing it, but I'll say it. I was watching my TV one night when they came in with a special report about a devastating earthquake in Peru. There were 30,000 crushed to death. Even more were buried alive. And on a Richter scale, it measured 8.2. And I said, "God, please answer me one question. Why'd they have to interrupt The Simpsons just for this? What a drag, because I was taping it and everything. And now I have to wait for the rerun to watch that part of the show I missed." And the chorus goes, "Why does this always happen? Why does this always happen to me? Why does this always happen? Why does this always happen to me?" The next verse, kind of in a similar vein, "My best friend Rob, he dies in a horrible traffic accident. I just had dinner with him yesterday. Hey, wait a minute, he still owes me money. What a jerk. That's $5 I'll never see again." And then I think, why does this always happen to me? So it's funny, this idea that we're kind of putting ourselves on the throne in the center of the universe, but it's what we do, right? So I myself, Ron Zaharsky, I'm in this checkout line at Pro Market, and I'm waiting, and there's like some trouble up right at the front of the line there. This woman's trying to pay with coupons and food stamps and kind of having all sorts of problems, and I'm thinking, man, I'd really like to get home. It was a hard day. I'd like to relax. And this cashier and her are interacting, and they have to call in the manager, and all this is going on. And they finally get it resolved, and I'm thinking, finally, I can get home. And wait a second, there's some more groceries she wants to pay with a second check. So you think, why is this happening to me, right? This constant habit of putting ourselves kind of on the throne. Everything's inconveniencing us. And Karen Armstrong's idea, we should dethrone ourselves from the center, put another there. And that's what bodhisattvas do to create this, on their work to create an enlightened society. So the vision we're talking about is one where a small number of people, an enlightened group of people, can work together in an enlightened way to create positive things for a large number of people. Take this center, right? It just didn't kind of pop into existence a month ago, right? Back in the late 70s, early 80s, a few enlightened people got together in their homes, had discussions. In 82, I think it was, is that right? They got a charter for becoming a church of religious science. And here we are today, 30 years later. We have a place to study and to practice because of a few enlightened people. So I'm hoping you're thinking, hey, yeah, sign me up. I want to be compassionate. I want to help create an enlightened society. And there's lots of paths, the good news is, to help create this enlightened society. I'm going to talk about one of them, the Buddhist Path. It's a path that's been designed, thought out, refined for 2,500 years. And there's a number of books written about, they call them pith or essential instructions for developing a compassionate mind. There's a well-known list from the 12th century of 60 tips for training a compassionate mind. And I'd like to read a quote. Keep in mind, it's about the Buddhist path, my path, and not necessarily your path. In the introduction to Dispel the Misery of the World, Whispered Teachings of the Bodhisattvas, Khenpo Api writes, "The greatest obstacle to compassion, and in fact to genuine happiness, is our innate attitude of self-cherishing. According to the Buddhism of Mahayana, or Great Vehicle, constant preoccupation with our own interests and welfare, deriving from the mistaken belief in a concrete self-identity, is the source of all life's frustrations and conflict. To remedy this and enable us to be of genuine service to others, we must meditate on loving kindness and compassion. As we become more open, caring, and courageous, our own worries will steadily diminish. And as we continue along the path, compassion will deepen and extend ever further until it encompasses even so-called enemies. At the same time, it will become increasingly effortless and spontaneous. Eventually, boundless compassion will simply radiate from us. All that we do, every word that we utter, every gesture we make, will be a benefit to others. This is the path of the Bodhisattvas." So small baby steps that we can do now can lead to this boundless compassion just simply radiating from us. Pretty good. I want to start with a riff off of what Khenpo Api says about meditating on love and of kindness and compassion. Here's the truth about all of you. You want to be happy, I'm assuming, and you want to avoid suffering. And it's true about everyone, all beings. They want to be happy and avoid suffering. And we as kind, loving, compassionate people want people to be happy and avoid suffering. So here's what I do in my life that makes a difference. I'm a teacher, which means I stand in front of a class a couple hours a day, and I hold office hours a few hours a day. So in the past, this is what I would do. I would come into a classroom with my backpack, get out my laptop, get that set up, get the projector on, kind of go get my notes all set up, and then bam, start teaching. Now what I do is I get all this stuff kind of organized, ready, but before the bam, before I start teaching, and people are kind of getting ready in their seats, I kind of look out and think about the class. May these people be happy and free from suffering. And I might pick out a person. May that person be happy and free from suffering. May that person be happy and free from suffering. So 30 seconds less than that of effort. But I really think it made a difference in my class. I feel more attuned to the class. If people are having trouble, I can, with some material, I can see that and kind of address that material. If people are excited about a certain thing, I can look at that. And it also made a difference in what I teach. Now I'm really making sure that what I'm teaching will be a benefit to these people, rather than I'm teaching stuff because I think it's really cool. I really find this pretty interesting, or I'm really good at this particular thing. Or we're probably all familiar with office hours. And one thing about office hours in a university is that pretty much no one comes to office hours. So, if you have, I have office hours 2 hours on Wednesday afternoons, it's time pretty much to myself where I can do research or whatever I feel like doing. And the occasional students like an interruption. They're interrupting me. So now what I do is a person says, hi, can I come in? I have a question about X. And as they're coming and taking a seat, I can think, may this person be happy and free from suffering. And kind of changes my mindset to what I was doing, to seeing how can I benefit this person. And again, that little quick change really, I think, has made a difference. I'm really better at offering or helping people. And now I have kind of a steady flow of people coming to these office hours. And it's pretty easy to implement these in kind of a constrained environment of work. And now I can kind of extend that to other things I do. So I'm at Pro Market in line. A person's up there is paying with coupons and is cashier, and they're having this problem. I can think, may that person with coupons be happy and free from suffering, and may this cashier be happy and free from suffering. And I don't think there's going to be some sort of mind transference that, all of a sudden I'm going to inject happiness in that person's life, but I think it makes a difference in my attitude and behavior, right? So I'm in line, my attitude is going to be different. When I interact with that cashier, it'll be different. So here's a related scoop. We all create stories about people. So a person in my office hours, even before they start talking, I've created a story about them, right? They're lazy because they haven't come to class in 2 weeks. Or I'm really sad to say I kind of create stories based on what people wear or how they look. And I have a slide here of one person. It's a little dark, not one of my students, but another individual. So he's 6'8". Can we get another few slides here? 350 pounds, tattoos on both arms, bald, has that beard. And we might be creating a story about him, right? But he's John Fetterman, a graduate of Harvard Kennedy Graduate School of Government. He's mayor of Braddock, Pennsylvania. He's really worked hard to revitalize this town, done lots of things with kids, worked tirelessly to bring new business into town. He's dubbed America's coolest mayor by Guardian magazine, appears here in the 27 bravest thinkers in Atlantic Monthly. Really done a lot for this town, but yet, what he really is might be really different from the stories we've constructed about this man, right? So stories. So in order to maybe interact more directly, it might be a good idea to stop and think, may this person be happy and free from suffering, and how can I benefit this person before, as an antidote to these stories we create, right? Because we all do it. So that's a tip. Stop, think, may this person be happy and free from suffering, and give it a try. So we go through life thinking and not thinking. We go through life thinking about ourselves, weaving these stories. My dog is stubborn, this job is boring, politicians are scumbags, whatever, right? We tell all these, and we go through life not thinking about how our actions can benefit people. But how would our days be like, if we really focused our attention on beneficial action? Take giving and generosity. We've seen examples of that today. The board working, people here on the platform, the musicians, Skip in the sound room. And we can think back to the last week and think how we gave what we were doing. But giving time and giving material goods just kind of scratches the surface of giving, right? And it really pays to contemplate perhaps part of our daily practice about giving and generosity. Zen Master Dogen writes, when treasure is just left as treasure, treasure becomes giving. To leave flowers to the wind, to leave birds to the season are also acts of giving. So leaving the Organ Mountains as they are is giving, right? Not littering, not polluting, giving. Leaving the deserts as deserts, giving. My cleaning up dog poop on the path is giving, right? Provided I'm not doing it because someone's coming down the other way and I want to look kind of good and, as a good person. That's not giving, because with giving we expect no reward. Master Dogen says, making a living and producing things can be nothing other than giving. So doing our job, whatever it is giving. I offer you the results of my job. So throughout the day, if we kind of think about giving and making offerings, I offer you my front lawn, neat, well-maintained, well-groomed. All things can be considered giving. Think about kind speech. I can mark that one off my bodhisattva list. Yesterday, my boss called. She's kind of a jerk. And she wants me to teach a class Friday nights, 6 to 9:30. I was just really, really pissed. I was like fuming inside, but I put on my smiley face. And I said, sure, no problem. That is not kind speech. Master Dogen says, You should know that kind speech arises from kind mind, and kind mind from the seed of compassionate mind. So, that what I said wasn't from a compassionate mind, and maybe thinking about people, may they be happy and free from suffering, maybe that will help when we think about kind speech. Maybe not saying anything would be a possible act of kind speech, or maybe saying no would be kind speech. Dogen says, you should ponder the fact that kind speech is not just praising the merit of others, it has the power to turn the destiny of the nation. So, fairly powerful. And this is my constant practice. I say things all the time that aren't a product of a compassionate mind, even to people I love, right? And I feel really bad inside that I'm doing this. One thing we might do as part of practice is to confess. I really messed up. I'm sorry. Can I take that back? That wasn't really what I meant to say. And finally, here's a tip that transcends all others. Dogen says that we should learn that self and others are one. And one reading this morning mentioned that our lives are like moonlight reflecting on a drop of dew. And we see we are as tiny and transitory as a dewdrop, yet this vast, boundless, eternal moonlight, the universe, is reflected in each drop of life. Right? So we're all connected. We're in the same boat. And you might think you're kind of independent, self-reliant. That's kind of the American way. I paddle my own canoe. But that's not true. There's only one canoe, and we're all in it together, each and every one of us. One canoe, one universe, the size or one canoe, one vehicle, the size of the whole universe. And we're heading to the shore of creating an enlightened society. So you see, even if the world is not peaceful, we can live peaceful lives. Right? Even if the world is not peaceful, we can work together to extend peace and harmony to others. Thanks. Thank you.
This is the point in our service when we have affirmative prayer. And Ron is going to lead us in a prayer this morning. First, he'll go through it. I'll have the words for part of it up here on the projector or on the screen. And after you've heard it once, he'll say it again, and at that point, he'll ask you to join in with repeating. At that point, you might want to close your eyes and go within and just really internalize these words that you'll be saying.
Okay, all right. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the root of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the root of suffering. May they not be separated from the great happiness devoid of suffering. May they dwell in the great equanimity free from passion, aggression, and prejudice. Please repeat after me. Life and death are of supreme importance. Time passes swiftly and opportunity is lost.
Time passes swiftly and opportunity is lost.
Let us awaken.
Let us awaken.
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 Do not squander your life.
Do not squander your life.
May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the root of happiness.
May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the root of happiness.
May they be free from suffering and the root of suffering. May they not be separated from the great happiness devoid of suffering. May they dwell in the great equanimity free from passion, aggression, and prejudice. Thank you. Namaste.